Vu's having some technical stuff going on here. So give us a second. Let me.
Okay, yeah, no hurry. One more sip of coffee.
Yeah, it looks like he had to join from a different spot. So Vu, everybody's ready when you are, if you can hear me.
Sebastian, your camera's got us looking at your tummy. So if you want to, there you go. You'll be on YouTube forever with your belly button. There we are. And the rest of us. So if you want to, we have
3-hour timer on condo bedrooms.
1 second. Alexa.
3-hour timer on condo bedrooms.
Thank you. All right. So you're ready to go, Julie?
Hold on, I'm getting confirmation. Vu, if you can hear us, confirm that you're ready. All right, so that's not a good sign. Give me a second, everyone.
Okay. Chelsea, Jacob, Roman. Hey, Roman. Hi, Chelsea. I was going to say good to see you, but you're on audio only.
Good to hear me, yeah?
Good to hear you. God. Jason.
Okay, so Vu said he's ready to go. Sorry about that. He's having some technical, but he's good to go. You're ready?
And yep, and I guess there's thunderstorms all over town, so any one of us may drop in or out. So let's just cross our fingers and run. It looks like a pretty straightforward meeting today, so it should go bing, bang, boom. If you guys are ready?
I think we're good to go.
All right, then let's begin. Good afternoon and welcome to the September 14th, 2021 TRAC Committee meeting. Thanks all for participating virtually as we take the precautions necessary during the latest COVID outbreak. As you know, PSTA has developed several methods for the public to comment prior to and during the virtual public meeting, and here are the options. Thanks for putting up the slide. During the meeting, the public can provide comment by telephoning by calling 415-655-0002 with meeting ID 180-155-7070, as you see on the screen. You'll be able to speak for 3 minutes. Again, it's as on the screen. Phone number 415-655-0002 with meeting ID 180-155-7070. Second option is by written comment prior to the meeting by snail mail sent to PSTA. And the third option is that you may send a comment by email either before the or during the meeting, sending it to the email address publiccomments@psta.net. Thank you for your patience. Then with that, if everyone can unmute, let's go ahead and take a quick roll call. On here is to make sure that we can hear you. After you say here, go ahead and mute again. Let's start with me. Everyone can obviously hear me. And Chelsea, can we hear you?
I am here.
Welcome. Let's go on. Deborah.
I'm here.
Welcome. Gloria.
Here.
Mark Boyce.
Yes, sir.
Bob Bowles.
Yes, sir.
There you are. We can hear you. Jason James. Jason, if you'll unmute. Jay. There you are. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Welcome. And we can hear you.
Okay,
Mark
great.
O'Hara.
Yes, I'm
there
here.
You are.
Yes.
Welcome. Mark O'Hara, can you hear us? And can we hear you?
I'm here.
Great. Who else? Teresa?
I'm here.
Great. Sebastian?
Here.
Can't find my unmute.
Welcome. Kimberly?
Here.
And Roman?
Here.
Did anyone else show up? Anyone that I miss? Then the rest will say aren't here. And thanks. At this point then, with the roll call done, we do the public comment. Are there anyone on the phone? Did any mail come yesterday or any emails?
No, there's nobody on the line and there has been no written public comment.
Oh, we're always forgotten. No one ever wants to tell us anything. All right, then, a little more seriousness. Let's move on with the agenda. The first thing, of course, we always start is with the chair's report. That's me. I represent you guys to the board of directors. I tell them about our meeting, and then let me tell you about theirs. The last board of directors meeting was August 18th, the next morning, right after our last meeting. So we had a meeting, boom, I went right, and the next morning saw them. The first thing that they covered, well, the most important thing was they approved our changes to our bylaws and sat our new meeting, our member, Bob. So that was all done unanimously as part of the consent agenda. The other neat thing I saw, and if you're interested, go watch the YouTube, a very positive presentation on the 3-year union contract. They've been negotiating that for some time, and it went through, again, unanimous approval that covered, I forget, is it 2/3 or 3/4 of the union employees? So it's a big deal that it's all been put to bed. A long presentation, which was hilarious. I shouldn't say hilarious, was very interesting about bus wraps. I didn't even know about bus wraps, but one of the problems was that the buses were being wrapped 100%, so that you couldn't even know that they had the PSTA logo. And part of the thing was to switch that, to find a new supplier. And oh my goodness, it's the least thing. Sometimes the biggest thing will go by with a single vote, and then the next thing will have. Anyway, again, I'd recommend you guys go watch the YouTube, but they selected someone to do the bus wrapping, and the new policy sounded, if I understood it right, that the buses will only be wrapped 80% so that we can at least see the PSTA logo. They also approved a contract for the state advocate, the guy who represents us up in Tallahassee. I was going to ask Brad, is there anything, or Cassandra, someone, did I leave anything out? How'd I do? Looks good. That was an interesting meeting last month. Then I will pass on to Gloria to tell us about Forward Pinellas, the CAC.
Well, thanks, Duncan. The Forward Pinellas CAC meeting was on August 26th, so it was a while back. And as I see on our agenda for today, we are going to have Chelsea Favreau here talking about Forward Pinellas. So I don't want to go in too much depth on anything, but a couple of things that I thought were interesting. 2 things from a personnel standpoint. Duncan is going to be terming out of our TRAC committee this year, but he's still going to be on the CAC, and several of us offered him up to be our vice chair, and so he was chosen as the vice chair for the CAC. So he's going to continue to be very active with that. Congratulations, Duncan. And also Bob Bowles, who is our newest approved member of TRAC, is actually going to also be seated on one of the committees for Forward Pinellas, which is the LCB, the local coordinating board that deals with issues relative to wheelchair issues, the access and so forth. And so it'll be wonderful to have him be involved with that as well. So several of us now, as you can see, are very involved with that. So that's good news. And then the couple things that we talked about we saw a presentation on the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance, which I'd mentioned last time. And that is it keeps making me optimistic that people are still hearing that we as transit riders care not just about our local transit, but because we're not driving cars, we care about not being trapped just in our county. And they're looking more and more in terms of regional transit, which I think is very important. And I'd love to have, as I mentioned before, I'd love to have a presentation of that. There was also a very interesting thing on micromobility knowledge exchange series, which is something that they put together, and it's available on the Forward Pinellas site. And you just type in micromobility knowledge exchange series, or micromobility. And what micromobility is, it refers to it. I'm reading from this. It says, a range of lightweight transportation devices operating at low speeds, typically up to 15 miles an hour. These include electric bicycles as well as electric skateboards and scooters. And I thought that was interesting because, again, those are the things that people will use to get to a bus or from a bus. And so, I thought that was just a very important thing, that they're really looking at all the ways people get around and the way they get to the buses and so on. And so that may be something that is worth us looking at some point. And then, the one last thing that they mentioned, they had a whole thing about the post-pandemic law enforcement activities and things that, again, we probably are aware of, but people were driving a lot faster during the times of the pandemic because there were fewer cars on the road. And I think they're still driving that fast now that there are more on the road. But anyway, I think that was those. Duncan, you were actually at that meeting. I did it by Zoom. Did you have anything else from that?
No, it was very strange to have a quorum of people demanding that the cops write more tickets instead of the opposite. But as pedestrians and the like, folks advocating for pedestrians were saying, get that traffic to slow down, stop people from rolling through right on red. Yeah, the micromobility thing, if you guys could take a look at it, it's very, very good. It's what really set some of the early adopting cities when I traveled around. We've got some of it, the bike rentals, and now we're starting to see the scooters. The early adopters had some trouble with people throwing scooters in trees and things like that. But it's good to see us addressing it and figuring it out. It is exactly the famous first mile, last mile stuff. So yeah, that was great. It was very inspiring. Thanks, Gloria. Any questions for Gloria? Any comments? If not, then let's move on to the agenda. The first question is about Flamingo. Is Juan here? And that's if everybody else will mute so we don't hear any dogs barking. Then let's turn it over to Juan.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to see everyone as well. Usually I get to see you streaming online on YouTube. So I'm happy to be in the meetings participating, but PSTA staff has been very busy doing outreach for the past few months, and we're very excited that Flamingo has launched, and we obviously want to make sure that the whole process is easy for all the riders that are using Flamingo cards and using the Flamingo app. Next slide. So we've been working very hard. We've created a sandwich board that you get to see at our terminals. We have information on our buses as well. We've created brochures. A lot of the information that we have is also both in English and in Spanish. And so you get to see that at all of our terminals. We've created lanyards. We had masks, pens, sanitizer, and our marketing department's also posting a lot of Flamingo information on our social media. So we've been very busy for the past few months doing outreach. Next slide. The outreach team has been, since July, has been going out to the terminals, talking to our riders, helping them with questions. We gave out almost 500 cards to riders during the promotion that we had in July, ended on August 31st. And so we were out there answering questions, helping them out, giving them lanyards with the little protective case for the Flamingo cards. And so due to the pandemic and the increase in cases, we obviously had to cut down on our person-to-person outreach. But we were still out there the last few weeks. We were out making sure that, especially once you had to put money in your card or you had to put money on your app, we wanted to make sure that riders were being helped and we can answer their questions. And so we're still out doing outreach. One of the things that I forgot to mention was we also created a nice video that talks or lets you know what Flamingo is all about and the difference between the smart card and the app. And I think Bob's gonna play it right now for you all.
Here's the scoop on Flamingo fares, the contactless way to pay that'll make boarding the bus fast and easy without the headache of paper tickets or loose change.
Now you're probably wondering, how does this whole Flamingo thing work? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Flamingo Fares offers 2 methods of payment so you can ride PSTA. You can either use a reusable Flamingo card for your convenience or the Flamingo Fares app for quick access at your fingertips.
So maybe you prefer the Flamingo card. Here's what you need to know. You can purchase the Flamingo Fares card for $3 at PSTA Customer Service Center windows or at select retail network locations. You want to make sure to add funds to your card right away, which you can do at the PSTA Customer Service Center window. You can also add funds to your Flamingo card at select retail locations or through flamingofares.com. Don't forget to register your card also at the website. If you happen to lose your card, don't sweat it. You can have the card replaced at any PSTA terminal for $3, or you can
I think we were having some technical difficulties with the video, but the video is actually good. It's very educational. It's on our social media. It's on our
Is it
YouTube
one-
site.
Hate to interrupt you. Is it a rolling video or more? Of a
Yeah,
PowerPoint?
let me try one more thing.
Okay.
It's seemed to be an embed issue with the PowerPoint. So let me get one thing and share I'm going to bring it up on my screen. All right, now what I want to do is share it and see if it works this way. All right, is it moving now?
Oh, we can't see it.
You have to share your screen.
Oh, actually, it was telling me it was shared.
No,
My apologies, folks. It's for some reason it's not giving me the option to share the video only within the PowerPoint. I don't know why.
why don't you put the link in the chat and everybody can go later.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, well, we can move on to the questions part, and I'll get a link up for you.
So does anyone have any questions?
The only time that this group is silent. Oh, there's
No.
Gloria.
I have a question. May I ask my question?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, I'm trying to get a friend signed up for it. I have my Flamingo card, and you said that they have to actually go to an outlet. Is it possible to order that by mail? The card?
No, I think right now there is no way to order it by mail. So they would have to go to either a terminal or one of our retail outlets.
What again are the retail outlets?
Amscot, 7-Elevens, and then there's a few other retail stores, but you can go to flamingofairs.com, and right on the website, you just click the where it says where to buy a Flamingo card, and it opens up a map, and it shows you, has a little legend. The stars on the legend are our terminals. The two other little dots are different colors, and it lets you know where you can buy a card and load money, or when you could only load money.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a question for you as well. On the application, I see the application says a cap. Would that cap show what your cap level is, or is that not applicable?
When you go to your virtual pass, which is like the QR code, you should have a little balance towards the bottom that shows you how much money you have on the app.
Right, but but if you're also supposed to be able to cap out at a maximum of $70 during the month, is that going to be shown anywhere? How close you are to the cap?
Yeah, it does.
I was having some trouble hearing.
Yeah, it should go when you go to manage and hit fair capping, it should show you the fair caps for your card.
And on both of my cards on the application that says there's no caps. That's why I was curious. Because I have the application on my phone, which is a straight adult pass, and everybody's told me that's the only thing that you can get off the application, a straight adult. It can't be changed to anything else, like a discounted fare. I also linked my card that I gotten, which shows that I have a discounted fare on both things, when you go to manage, it does not show any cap.
You probably haven't hit the cap yet, but you can have your app change to reduced fare if you go to a service center and show eligibility for the reduced fare. So they can,
I've done that twice at Park Street, and both customer service people have said that it could not be done. So.
Okay, well, Juan, will you follow up with Terry on Park Street? Because we know that can be done.
Right, because I mean, I asked him just 2 days ago, to be honest with you, and I asked him when I originally, if I needed a card, could that be changed? And at that point, it was so young, they might not have known. But I just asked them 2 days ago, and they said, no, the adult fare is just that. I said, well, I'm eligible for limited, that's why I have the card. And the customer service said, yeah, that's what you needed to. So they need a little bit of education.
Okay, thank you for that.
We'll follow up with them.
I think Sebastian has his hand up.
Oh, Sebastian? Yes, Sebastian. And you're on mute.
Yeah, I hear you. How are we making out with a major retailer? The biggest complaint most people have is that it's really inconvenient to go to Park Street or Williams Park to pick up a card or to download it. We used to have CVS. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. The question
Yeah, we're
is,
here.
are we getting closer to having a major retailer sell our cards?
Because
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, we're working on that with our regional network right now. So they've made contact with a couple of larger retailers, and hopefully we'll hear from them soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. No more questions. And if you do have any questions, I guess you can always call our information line. You can go to flamingofairs.com. You can also check out that video that you weren't able to see. It's a pretty cool video.
I think Duncan probably needs to put himself on mute.
We're getting some feedback from you, Duncan.
Yeah.
Sounds like there are two devices open. All right, if nobody minds, I want to try one more time to share the video. I think I found a workaround.
Way to pay that'll make boarding the bus fast and easy without the headache of paper tickets or loose change.
Now you're probably wondering, how does this whole Flamingo thing work? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Flamingo Fares offers two methods of payment so you can ride PSTA. You can either use a reusable Flamingo card for your convenience or the Flamingo Fares app for quick access at your fingertips.
So maybe you prefer the Flamingo card. Here's what you need to know. You can purchase the Flamingo Fares card for $3 at PSTA Customer Service Center windows or at select retail network locations. You want to make sure to add funds to your card right away, which you can do at the PSTA Customer Service Center window. You can also add funds to your Flamingo card at select retail locations or through flamingofares.com. Don't forget to register your card also at the website. If you happen to lose your card, don't sweat it. You can have the card replaced at any PSTA terminal for $3, or you can reactivate or deactivate any lost card through the Flamingo Fares website, as long as you've registered the card beforehand. Ready to board? Simply tap your Flamingo card here. That's it. Bet you're glad you didn't have to fumble through your wallet for exact change.
For those of you planning to use the Flamingo Fares app, download it to your phone using the App Store or Google Play Store. Next, register to create your account. You need to provide your email, password, and just a few more details. Then it's time to add a saved payment. Do so by going to the Settings menu in the top left. Choose Payment Methods. Tap the plus button in the bottom right and add your card details. Then at the bottom, tap Save. Now you can load money to your virtual card. You can do so in the settings menu by clicking the Manage option. Then along the toolbar, clicking Load Money. Select the amount you like, tap Place Order, and that's it. Ready to board? Scan your Flamingo Fares app here. And that's it. You're good to go. Enjoy your ride.
Say goodbye to the days of buying single tickets or guessing how much you'll ride. With Flamingo Fares, you can experience a new benefit known as fare capping that'll help you save money. If riders reach the daily or monthly maximum fares, they won't be charged additional trips. That means you'll never pay beyond $5 a day or over $70 a month when you're using Flamingo Fares. Flamingo Fares connects the Tampa Bay region, including Pinellas County, Hillsborough, and our neighbors in Pasco and Hernando County. So wherever you may go throughout the Bay, Flamingo Fares can get you there.
Very good.
I hope that played.
Chico.
And that, the actor in that, by the way, is our planner, Reed Powers, and some other guy you might have seen here before. Juan.
If you get to watch it again, you say, in case you were wandering.
That's right.
He did it on, yes. Nobody noticed until later. Nicely done, Juan.
I have a question and a comment about Flamingo, if you have time.
Sure.
I'll just admit it, even though it's probably on me. But when they sent the Flamingo card out, the lady that I was speaking to from the office from PSTA was wonderfully informed. So I can't blame it on her at all. But I worked on getting that thing activated about 30 minutes. And I never did complete the process. I gave up in frustration. Now I would call myself about average mentality, possibly for 59 years old, a little above average technically with computers and phones because I use them a lot. I just wanted you to know the feedback. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I have had problems with this new 5G phone. I expected way better service from my old phones, and I have a lot more problems with the 5G, in all honesty. So it could have been that, but just to give you the feedback. But the lady that was helping was wonderfully. She did everything right. I know that, and but then there was a process where then she left me be and tried to set it up, and it never happened. So I gave up because we didn't have to pay the fares. I didn't care, But so in my case, I have to get back to it. It wasn't easy, is my point, and I download a lot of apps, and so I just wanted to give the general feedback. I could be 1 in 100, and it was probably operational error, but I am thrilled. I just listened to the video. Many times I had paid more than $5 in a day, and that cutting that possibility out is wonderful. But I also thought that folks are going to be less likely to pay $3 over and over for a replacement card. So I was thinking maybe if they could work on a way to make the card free, but everybody wants everything for free, but that's just my opinion.
Well, your first card is free, right? After that, just don't lose the card or use the phone app. And,
Actually, it's $3.
Be careful.
Yeah, we were giving out the cards for free for the first two months in July and August, and so now they're $3. And if you lose it, it's to replace it, it'll be $3.
But just don't lose it.
Reasonable. Yeah, don't lose it. I know, but there's a lot of folks, and it's not ideal situations with traveling on public transportation in bad weather, and you set them down, you lose them, and just to have to pay $3 over and over. I would imagine it's going to happen to some people. once every other month or so, and that's just extra dollars, so it was just an idea.
And the good thing
Thank
about
you.
the Flamingo card is that it's reusable. People can also download the app for free. So if that's an option for them, they could download the app and not have to worry about doing the $3 cost for the card.
It's easy for me to download an app, but a lot of the folks I ride with, this would be way over their heads.
Right.
I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying they don't have the technology. They don't have the experience. If they did, but it's just feedback. And I had one other follow-up question, but is usage going about as with Flamingo, or is it behind the curve of what they expected? Is it going over well, or?
Yeah, we've had a good use. Well, during when it was free, most people were using it to ride the bus. And we seeing right now, of the riders, we're seeing about 30% of the people that are riding right now are using Flamingo.
It's pretty good, I guess. Thanks.
So the rest are paying cash or using obsolete Go cards?
Some other
Yeah.
some other kind of card. Yep.
I see a lot of people aren't using cash still or using old Go cards.
Wow.
Because we have to remember a lot of people are unbanked. So having the app or the card, you have to have some kind of account or a card to link it to pay. And if you don't have that, the card or the app is not an option for you.
Right. Until we get the corner store network built up, whatever it is, the CVS or Walgreens or whatever that network's going to be, so they can go in and put cash on a card.
Yeah, although remember, the other thing I'll just mention, everybody, is that prior to the pandemic, at least when we were charging cards before, nearly 40% of all of our riders were not using any of that. They were either a U-Pass, they were like a St. Pete College, some kind of pass or corporate pass, and then another big chunk were transportation disadvantaged customers using a transportation disadvantaged special pass, which is now only, despite a lot of great efforts by everybody, lots of people on September 1st got on the bus with their Flamingo card that they had been handed by Juan or somebody, and then they're like, "Oh wait, I have to pay." There was a huge awakening, and we're still struggling to get all of the transportation disadvantaged people. Prior to the pandemic, 5,000 people a day, 5,000 individual people were using a low-income bus pass, and we're not there yet. And getting all those people, they had to be re-signed up and re-registered, and they had to go through this whole process, and that's still an ongoing process, unfortunately. But hopefully we can get through that, and then we will just keep improving on the technology issues. Like you said, Mark, I think you're right on. Certainly an app like this is a little more complicated than the Solitaire app or whatever, but it is. It's certainly not where we want it to be yet, but I think we're making progress on it little by little.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the record, I've had it on my phone. I carry the card as a backup. Just nervous that my phone's going to conk out as I get on the bus or lose Wi-Fi as I get on the bus. I use Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and all of that, but it would just be my luck. And the one time it didn't work at all, the guy just said, "Go ahead." Like, you showed good faith. So it is, I know and I hadn't really thought about it, Brad, but I am entitled to a low income, or whatever, the disabled pass, which I would used to show. So I need to sign up for that as I roll off a track. So yeah, I'm going to be among those thousands of people that need to fill out the paperwork and get in that queue. I hadn't thought about that. Wow. What a nightmare. What a logistical nightmare. I get it.
And yeah, I think Juan and Bob can probably speak to it the best, but at least whenever I've been out at a bus stop or anything lately, just like the number of people that come, like, sir, I'm left-handed. I get a discounted pass, or I qualify for. I'm a person who was in this war and this military, and so I get a discount. There's like all these discounts that people get, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, go talk to the customer service person because they, exactly all of the discounts. There's so many people getting disability or senior citizen or student or all these different programs, and they all have special sign-up procedures and everything to get that all working on the Flamingo has been and will continue to be a big challenge, I think.
Right. All right. Okay, any other questions for the Flamingo, for Juan or for Brad or Cassandra? Any other questions or comments? Wow. Yeah, and I apologize for the technical problems.
I have a question.
Please, Tracy.
I just wondered, when you have the card, can't you add money on that through an app, like from your bank? You have to go personally and put cash on it at one of the places.
You can, but you can use your card. So I
can add, like, after, like, I'm rolling off of track team 2, like November, I think Duncan knew the same time. And will you be able to add it? Like, can I do it from my phone?
Right.
I have to go to a place to add
Duncan,
money. Will I still use the same card?
Right. Like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, you'd normally transfer the card, but there's this whole folks of transit riders who don't have credit cards, who don't have bank accounts, who don't have a debit card to draw on.
Right.
So there has to be a separate network who, by the way, need a bus. So they're going to have this separate cash system. You don't go into a Starbucks to put cash, to put money on your Starbucks card, although I guess you could. But this is,
but I'm saying I will be able to do it from the phone.
Yeah. Just like all the other phone apps.
Because I don't have like a password or anything to get into it.
Yeah, you don't need.
I have the card, the physical card.
You have to set up. You need to set that up. You need to log in and create it.
But I've already, it all works because it was set up when I got it.
Right. You got a VIP pass.
Okay.
Right.
I get you. Once I would set it up in my own name, I can add to it.
And I've gone through that exercise now already just to see how I'm going to be living as soon as I get off track.
Right. So I heard you say that earlier.
That's credit card and all of that to have one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Juan. Any other questions? Then, if we can, let's go ahead and move on to the AVA. I cannot say AVA agreement for Clearwater Beach after St. Pete Beach and Dunedin. What's going on next? Jacob.
Great, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jacob Labutka. I'm a senior planner here at PSTA, and today I want to talk to you about the latest stuff on Ava's countywide tour. So next up, she is going to Clearwater. So tomorrow we are taking an interlocal agreement with the City of Clearwater to the Combined Finance and Planning Committee meeting for the next round of the demonstration. So we just wanted to come here and tell you a little bit about that, as well as give you an update on the program. So back in April, actually, let me go back to our very first demonstration, which was, of course, in St. Pete from last November through the end of March. So that was, of course, a very successful demonstration, and we wanted to continue the demonstration program in northern Pinellas County in Dunedin and Clearwater. And so we actually went out to bid for a vendor to continue the demonstration program, and BEEP was selected to continue the program at the North County locations. And prior to that board meeting, TBARDA and PSTA had approved a memoranda of understanding in order to utilize some of their federal funding for the demonstration. So this will be paid for a 50-50 match, 50% from TBARDA's federal funds, as well as 50% from PSTA's capital reserves. Next slide, please. can you go back one more? Thank you. So this is the proposed route that we are looking to operate. So that we've kind of developed this in coordination with city staff. So we're looking to operate on a route along Gulfview Boulevard as shown on the map. So this starts just south of the big roundabout adjacent to Pier 60. So to essentially start, go down Coronado and hit back onto Gulfview Boulevard. Gulfview Boulevard. I always forget if it's Boulevard or Avenue. Go down Gulfview and go all the way down until just before the bridge that goes to Sand Key. Utilize the street there, and then go back northward along Gulfview. And so this would take a path that's similar to some of our trolley routes, like the Jolly Trolley and the Suncoast Beach Trolley that goes by a lot of the hotels, and of course right along the beach. Can't wait to get a great shot of her with the beach in the background. I'm sure that's going to be a wonderful shot, especially at sunset. So this is the route that we are looking to take once she goes to Clearwater. Next slide, please. And so as part of this demonstration, we are looking to take an interlocal agreement to our committee tomorrow, the City of Clearwater. So we are still finalizing the exact language of the agreement with the city. However, the responsibilities shown here will remain the same in order to ensure the success of the project. And these responsibilities are consistent with how the project has been done in both St. Petersburg and Dunedin. So several city responsibilities in the agreement are to ensure that the route infrastructure is in place. So these are things like patching potholes on the roadway, which typically isn't an issue here, as well as trimming any trees or other vegetation that might protrude into the roadway and affect the sensors. We also have to identify a secure rooftop for satellite communications equipment. Also have to make sure any stop infrastructure is in place and particularly to ensure ADA compliance. Again, this won't be much of an issue since we're planning to utilize existing PSTA bus stops along the route. And perhaps most importantly, we have to identify a vehicle storage location that has access to both electricity for charging and water for cleaning, which we're actually in the midst of working on finalizing a location with the city now. And of course, PSTA has several responsibilities, of course, to primarily fund, deploy, and maintain the demonstration, as well as developing and installing all signage. So this typically takes the form of A-frames that we place out at the stops to let riders know that the service is stopping at certain designated stops. And finally, we're also responsible for providing emergency response training to fire rescue and police departments on the autonomous vehicles. And in addition, we also provide additional training to the beep attendants as well, who will be on board the vehicles. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back to the chair and take any questions that you'll have.
Yeah, that's great. That route takes you past the Hyatt, the Omni, Shepherd's. I mean, that's, I wish it went a little farther up, but to make it all the way to that roundabout past the pirate ship would just be crazy. That little last piece is constantly.
Yeah, I know that roundabout, even for a regular driver, can be, for lack of a better term, a hot mess. So we wanted to just avoid the roundabout and keep it either north or south of the roundabout.
I mean, the fact that the PSTA transfer point is at the roundabout or just north of it would mean someone would have to walk down to catch the trolley. It's not that bad. I mean, the whole point of being at Clearwater Beach, it's going to, as long as it's not raining or whatever.
Well, and I will say that is a good point. And so something we could perhaps think about is perhaps putting an additional sign at one of those transfer locations and informing people that maybe they just have to walk. I think it's about maybe 2 blocks or so from the transfer point up to the nearest AVA stop. But no, that is a great suggestion.
And listen, making someone walk 2 blocks down Clearwater Beach is not exactly torture. I mean, that is perfect. I don't see any problem with that. Any questions from anybody? Gloria, I see. Unmute yourself, please. You're muted. There we go.
I think you mentioned, Jacob, that this is running a lot of the same route as the Jolly Trolley. I mean, is part of this evaluation sort of if this would ultimately replace the Jolly Trolley on Clearwater Beach, or how are you evaluating those two? If I'm a person there on the street, what am I supposed to want to do? Take the Jolly Trolley or take the Ava?
Well, I think the beauty of it is that you can take both. And I think we kind of saw this in downtown St. Petersburg. It wasn't quite the exact routing, but some of the stops for the Looper were also some of the same stops for Ava. But it at least in St. Pete, definitely attracted different markets. So for the Ava shuttle, through the survey that we did, it was primarily found that most of the people that came out to St. Petersburg came out to Ava in St. Pete. We're specifically there to try out the service, especially since, most people haven't actually been in an autonomous vehicle before. Of course, whereas the Looper trolley, it's primarily, tourists that might already be in the area looking to get a little further out. And of course, it's a little different here on Clearwater Beach, but then we'll have even more of a tourist market. But again, it's only, that short back and forth on Gulfview for about, I think it's about a 1.5 mile round trip. So it certainly adds an additional option if riders want to travel along South Beach. But I would anticipate that a lot of the ridership out there will be tourists in the area, like in St. Pete, who just want to try out the autonomous vehicle demonstration.
Yeah, if you compare the Jolly Trolley on Clearwater to, say, the Cat in St. Pete, if you're going somewhere, you'd take the Jolly Trolley. If you're just going for a little joyride, rest your feet and to go from the Hyatt to Shepherd's and back, then you would take the Ava. And also, like you say, just for the wow of being on an autonomous vehicle that you can go home to North Dakota and tell your kids, I was on an autonomous vehicle. I think that's more what would happen. Any other questions? Thanks, Gloria. Bob.
Yeah, has any thought been given to how Ava is going to act positive or negative to the existing traffic that's already in the area? Because on a weekday off season, it might not be too bad, but on a weekend, I've been 45 minutes just crossing over the bridge, and that's not even getting anywhere near Gulf Boulevard at that point. And I know that when I saw Ava in Dunedin, I didn't get to see it down in St. Pete, but I just kind of thought that it was doing a little bit slower than regular traffic.
No, that is true. It does tend to operate a little slower than some of the other cars on the road. I do know out on Clearwater Beach, even on a regular day, I've driven myself on Gulfview south of the roundabout, and the speeds typically aren't that fast in that area, especially since there are several pedestrian crosswalks getting people from the hotels to the beaches. So the speeds, at least on that section of the route, aren't typically operating that fast anyway. And then once you get maybe after a couple of blocks south of the roundabout, the roadway actually has 2 lanes on each side. So unlike in Dunedin, people will actually be able to pass the shuttle in the other lane if they don't want to be behind it.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of some of the shorter areas, like by Hyatt and so forth, where it's still single lane and so forth. I didn't want to not only frustrate the general public in traffic, but also our bus drivers as well as our trolley drivers, because I know that they have time schedules that they have to meet, and being slowed up earlier and being stuck on the bridge, they're going to be as anxious as they can be to meet their time stops.
No, absolutely. And, something we did in Dunedin is make sure we kept Jolly Trolley informed of the demonstration, and we'll continue to do the same thing here at Clearwater to make sure that they sync well with each other. And one other thing I'll note is that these shuttles actually operate slightly faster than the ones in St. Pete, because we did receive some comments in the St. Petersburg demonstration that the speeds of the shuttle were a little slower than desired. These actually do go a little faster. And industry-wide, they actually, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration typically approves about a 1 to 2 mile per hour increase about every year for these shuttles. So they'll continue to get faster as the technology improves.
All right, thank you.
And as riders get used to riding on them, right? That's what we're really doing? Like, was that analogy of elevators where people were first, they all needed elevator operators, and now folks aren't afraid of them anymore. Any other questions? Good questions. I have kind of an obscure one. I just noticed in that one picture, is Ava a term owned by the people in Orlando, or is that actually a PSTA? So if for whatever reason...
No, that is a PSTA branded created slogan. I love the background of it. So the inspiration came from one of my favorite animated Disney Pixar movies, WALL-E. So they have like the I guess more feminine robot Eva. And so that was kind of the initial inspiration. So we kind of turned that into Ava.
So if Beep were to lose the next contract and it were to go to XYZ Acme, that vehicle would then be painted orange and still be referred to as Ava because that's the PSTA.
Oh, yeah. Even if in the future we have, another operator or several operators or whatever the future holds, that Ava branding we'll be able to use in the future.
So like Sunrunner or the PSTA blue and aqua, that's
salmon colored.
Yeah, salmon. Thank you.
Salmon.
I know. Sorry, coral.
Trying to help you. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we've had a lot of internal discussions over what to call that color.
All right, I got a red X for that one. All right, so the salmon and Ava is consistent from now till the end of time, no matter who the provider is. Beep is the provider. Got it. Thanks. All right, if there's no other questions, last chance. Then thanks, Jacob. Then let's move on to the St. Pete Looper and its upgrade. Cassandra.
Well, Ava is our newest PSTA Pinellas County resident. We'll be talking a little bit about the Looper, which is a long time feature of the PSTA system. The Looper itself has been operating in downtown St. Pete for more than 20 years, and about 10 of those years, PSTA and the city of St. Petersburg have been participating in making sure that the Looper can continue to run. Every few years, we bring a couple of agreements to the board, and these are going to the board tomorrow during their committees. One is a funding agreement between us and the City of St. Petersburg and the St. Pete Downtown Partnership, and the other is an operating agreement with the Looper Inc. Next slide, please, Bob. If many of you can remember, about a few years ago, we changed the loop for the Looper to include more of the innovation district, and this was very strategic in that we wanted to capture more of the employment and residential market, but we also added some early morning service, and at the same time made the service fare free, and it was doing quite well. And I'll show you some of the ridership that happened right in that as we started to make those changes. But in March of 2020, we did suspend some service and because of COVID, and then in June resumed the service, but reduced it only to 2 trolleys. So we had pulled the electric bus off the route. So we went from 3 vehicles to 2 vehicles, and reduced some late night service because there just wasn't the demand for it. So just looking back one more time, next slide, please. In the blue, you can see the ridership for the Looper trolleys in fiscal year 18. And then when we made those changes, increasing the service, we, in some months more than doubled the ridership on the Looper, and it was going really, really well. And then COVID hit in the green in 2020. You can see we suspended service and it completely shut down in April and May. And in the purple, you can see we're starting to come back with putting the service back out on the road, those 2 vehicles operating nicely. And we anticipate that will continue to go up as we sort of try to pull out of what's happening now. But we see some still better ridership than what we had in 2018. So we expect that to continue to rise. Next slide, please. So moving forward in the next 3 years, we have some great commitments from partners. We in downtown St. Petersburg, both the Downtown Partnership, who is a sister partner of the Looper, will be contributing with some stakeholder contributions as well as some advertising that they get, and the City of St. Petersburg splitting with PSTA the remainder of the cost after we expend a service development grant from the Florida Department of Transportation that was used to have that early morning service increase. But because we're going from 3 vehicles in our previous agreement to 2 vehicles, we wanted to make sure that we still maintain some on-time performance during heavy travel times and congestion, especially down around the pier when things get busy. So we've given the opportunity for the looper to have about $75,000 a year to use for additional service. So most of the time there'll be 2 trolleys out there, and then when it gets busy, they'll have the option of throwing another trolley out there so they can stay on time. So the board will be asked, and we'll have questions from you today about those 2 agreements. One is the funding agreement. So agreement between the St. Pete Downtown Partnership, the City of St. Petersburg, and Pinellas County to fund the service, and then an agreement with the looper to run the service. So the value of the operating contract for the looper is the total cost of the service minus the St. Pete Downtown Partnership, because they'll do an internal budget transfer for that funding. So we are very excited to continue to have this partnership with the city and with the Downtown Partnership, and make sure that we can keep the looper running. It's a very successful route in downtown. Next slide. So while this is not an action for you today, it is an action for the board tomorrow. Those 2 agreements would be an A and a B. So with that, I will take any questions that you might have about the service or our partnership, or what's next. So I think Jay has their hand up. Yep.
Yes. I have a question. What was the decision making behind removing the electric bus? Is it being rerouted to be used on a different route in area?
Yes. So we have a great expansion of our electric bus fleet. As you remember, we took delivery of 4 new buses, and we're having 2 come more on the way. So we'll have a fleet of 10, and those are being put on different routes across the county, all that come to our facility, because we have a in-route charger at the 34th Street transfer location, what we call the lay-by. So you'll probably see those buses on the 11, on the 4, on the 59 and the 52. So they'll be coming in out of downtown and be all over the county.
That's awesome. So long distance, not just in the downtown area. That's dope.
Yeah, I mean, we started them out in downtown because we wanted to make sure that they could go the distance, and we have found that they can. And so as long as they have that sort of mid-route charger, sort of a little charger boost at the induction charger, then they can make it.
Okay.
So we'll be expanding that fleet, and hopefully, get to 100% electric. And Sebastian, you still have your hand up. I don't know if it's for this or if that was a leftover, but happy to take any other questions that you guys might have. Nope.
It's left over, actually, but I wanted to get to the new trolleys, so whenever you're ready for that.
New trolleys. Go for it.
Now? Okay. I happen to see a picture of the new trolleys,
Yes.
and aesthetically they look beautiful. Why the red and yellow? No question. That's just a question.
We wanted them to match all the other ones that are out there, so that people knew that they could take any of the trolleys that were out there. There seems to be some confusion sometimes about whether you take Suncoast Beach trolley or the Jolly trolley, and having them all be the same makes it easier for passengers to just get on whichever one's next.
Okay, when are they coming out?
I think there's going to be a few more things that our maintenance department has to do, and I think we're looking at, I want to say November.
Okay, are they hybrids?
No, they are not.
They're not.
No,
That 50-gallon fuel tank, is that going to be enough to cover a shift?
Yeah.
It is?
Fine.
All right.
Yeah, really fine.
I hear about these things.
I do.
Have connections.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Could you send out the pictures of the trolleys to the TRAC members? We've never discussed
Oh,
this.
Okay,
And
sure. You know what?
I'm
Bob,
sure
why
this-
don't we?
I was gonna say, I'm sure there's track members that have never seen these trolleys.
Why don't we arrange for a presentation at our next meeting about the trolleys and how they're gonna look and what they're gonna operate, and yeah, we can bring those out to you. Sure. Thanks for asking. And Jay,
Yeah,
did you have another
absolutely.
question?
Yes. I actually was going to ask you about new trolleys. I didn't realize we had new trolleys coming. So, because it was just my own. I'm a transit nerd, so I just noticed things. So I noticed that on the cap was often being replaced with a standard bus instead of a trolley bus. So I was like, oh, we're getting new trolleys for the cap, but I hear we're getting new trolleys. So
Okay.
I'd love to hear more about that.
They're beautiful.
Oh yeah, dope.
Oh, yeah.
Are we in the general questions now, or are we still on the other thing?
So we're still on the looper item, and then we'll get to Chelsea next, and then we can go to general member comments for sure. Thanks all. Thanks very much. Okay, so we have Chelsea Favreau from Forward Pinellas here today to give us a special presentation about what they're doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me. As Cassandra said, I'm Chelsea Favreau with Forward Pinellas. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about who we are and what we do. Next slide. All right. So Forward Pinellas, we serve basically two different roles in Pinellas County. One side, we are the Pinellas Planning Council. The other side, we are the countywide MPO. And I'll talk a little bit more about what those mean. But we're technically two separate legal entities. But we were brought together, I think in 2014, to really align the agency mission of integrating land use and transportation policy decision-making. Next slide. So regionally, you know, we often get questions about how we all work together and where we fit. You know, as for Pinellas, we are not an implementing agency. We cannot build anything, but we have lots of money. So we work with all of our partners throughout the region to help agencies like PSTA, the local governments, FDOT, really align their vision and their projects with state and federal funding that comes down. Next slide. And I guess again, I think someone, and then we all kind of crashed together, but that's actually us all working together very nicely. We have a governing board, 13 members, and our board is made up of elected officials from throughout Pinellas County. That includes the municipalities, the Board of County Commissioners, and we also have a representative from PSTA. And then underneath all of that, we have a number of advisory committees that provide recommendations to the board. We have a planners advisory committee that advises them on land use cases. It's made up of very technical staff. Citizens advisory committees to give really that citizens perspective on the items that the board reviews, as well as a bicycle pedestrian committee. And then one that was mentioned earlier, the local coordinating board that really focuses on transportation disadvantaged issues in Pinellas County. Next slide. So just as an overview, our agency director kind of sees what we do as kind of like this three-tiered approach, where our job is to create safer streets, enhance transit connections, and also improve traffic flow and congestion. In the next 25 years, we are planning to add about 93,000 more people to Pinellas County, and that's almost the size of another Clearwater. So we really have to think responsibly about where those people are going to go and how they're going to get around. Traffic is already a concern, you know, throughout Pinellas County. We're not going to stop growing. It's just kind of the way it is. So, you know, trying to plan efficiently for where people will go, how they will get there is really at the crux of what we do at Forward Pinellas. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the land use side of our house. Next slide. So the Pinellas Planning Council, that side of our agency is actually, it's a state, it's mandated in state statute. It's a little different. Nowhere else really in the state of Florida has this kind of setup. And really what it is we have what we call a countywide plan. And this is a land use plan for all of Pinellas County. And this was really born out of the issue, you know, back in, I think, the 70s or 80s. where, you know, you have 25 different local governments and everyone is kind of making decisions for themselves, but they're not really considering the impact that those land use decisions have on their neighbors. You know, one example we can use is, say the city of Largo wants to put, you know, a 10-story tall tower next to a little single-family residential neighborhood that's in the unincorporated county. So our agency tries to make sure that doesn't happen, and we kind of set that upper limit for what development can occur, and then the local governments can make any decisions they want for their communities within that upper limit. So administration of the countywide plan is kind of one of the key roles at Ford Pinellas, but then we also provide local assistance, data analytics, knowledge exchange series like the one that was referenced on micromobility. We don't just want to, you know, kind of be a heavy hand from a land use perspective, telling all the local governments what they can and cannot do, but we do try to be a resource and we try to get everyone to kind of work together and get along. Next slide. So this right here is an example of the countywide land use plan map. And this is where we say we set that upper kind of threshold for development throughout Pinellas County. And then we coordinate the planning amongst all 25 different local governments, as well as aligning it with transportation. One good example of how we align this with transportation is the densities and intensities of development that are allowed in Pinellas County are much higher in our corridors like US 19, East Bay Drive, 34th Street South. Just those corridors that we know have existing transit service and areas that we know in the future will probably get the most investment from enhanced transit service as well. Next slide. All right. So now I'll talk a little bit about transportation planning. Next slide. And I will, full disclosure, I am more of a transportation person than a land use, so I'll probably be able to have a lot more information on this. So on the transportation side of things, I did reference that we're an MPO. That's a Metropolitan Planning Organization. This is a federal designation. Every urbanized area in the country is federally mandated to have an MPO. And what the MPO's main role is to do is to prioritize projects. And a project cannot receive state or federal funding unless it is prioritized by our agency. So that's really important in that, you know, local governments, PSTA, they have their own revenue streams. They can kind of do, you know, whatever they want with their own funding. But if you want some of that state federal funding, it's got to come through Ford Pinellas. And so that's where we work with all the different local governments. We try to help them kind of lay out what their priorities are, and then we try to find the funding so that the local governments can build those projects and develop in the way that they so choose. We also have ongoing consideration for the transportation disadvantaged, environmental justice considerations. We want to make sure that where we are investing these dollars isn't, you know, only in, you know, wealthier communities without minorities, or that the projects that we're building aren't like the interstate highway system back in the day that was kind of developed without any consideration for the communities that it was impacting. That's actually why MPOs came about, or one of the key reasons was when the interstate was developed, the federal government really just came in and put the interstates wherever they wanted to. There was no public involvement. There was no opportunity for people to, hey, you know, come out and say, hey, don't destroy my neighborhood. So MPOs are born out of that to give that local control to how state and federal dollars are spent in your communities. Next slide. So the way that we really do this is through our major plans and programs. The biggest thing that we have is what we call our long-range transportation plan. It's branded as Advantage Pinellas, and we worked very, very closely with PSTA on developing this plan. And basically, if a project is not in this plan, it cannot get state or federal dollars. So this is where we really tried to tie the land use together with the transportation. You'll see this map on the right, the investment corridors. These are the corridors that we determined are really those bigger, higher frequency transit corridors. And we committed to increase the densities and intensities of development along these corridors, knowing that you have to have a certain threshold of density and intensity in order for transit to be successful. So we committed to, you know, allowing for the greater intensity of development. And we've also committed to steering some state and federal dollars towards the transit services in those corridors so that they can both be successful and work together. Next slide. Some of the other major plans and programs that we have, one is what we call a congestion management process. This is something that we are required to have by the federal government. Typically what this process would have done is we would have said, okay, all of these roads have congestion. let's widen them. What are you going to do about them? How are you going to fix it? So, you know, we've tried to take a step back from that approach. There's always been the, okay, if you're not going to widen a road, can you do additional turn lanes or invest more money in technology considerations? This time around, when we did an analysis of the network, we also looked at multimodal accessibility, and we really wanted to take transit into account. And areas that had you know, a lot of transit activity, we kind of right off the bat said, all right, this is not going to be an appropriate place to just widen the road and focus on roadway capacity. We need to do something differently and consider those transit investments. And then one of the other major things we have, as I noted, is the priority lists. We adopt that every single year. We do a call for projects, and we ask our local government partners and agency partners like PSTA, hey, if you have a project that needs state or federal funding, now is the time, send it to us, and we'll see if we can get it added onto the priority list. Next slide. The Transportation Improvement Program is one of the other ones. That's actually a 5-year work program. So it kind of goes from your long-range plan that identifies all your needs for the next 20 years, and then it moves into the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, that looks at just the next 5 years. We update that each year. As we identify new revenues, we pull in more projects. As projects are completed, they kind of move out. So it's a whole funding cycle that we look at on an annual basis. And then one of the other things I'll point out is our Complete Streets program. We provide grant funding each year to our local agencies for what's called Complete Streets. And these are really just roadway improvements that are designed to be for all modes. It's not just for widening. When local governments come to us, we ask them to tell us, okay, what modes are you going to be improving mobility for? You know, we want to see sidewalks. We want to see bicycle accommodations in some way, shape, or form. Complete streets don't look the same everywhere you go, but you know, some of our successful projects have promised to put in, you know, additional transit stops and, you know, connections to transit and things like that. So that's an annual process that we also work with our local governments on. Next slide. All right, next slide. So some upcoming and ongoing projects. At Fort Pinellas, we have what are called spotlight emphasis areas. These are strategic planning and operations topics. So spotlight's way more fun to say. And these are really focus areas that were approved by our board back in 2015. And they've really been the focal point of all of our planning for the last 5 years. And these were US 19 corridor, access to our beaches, and the Gateway Area Master Plan. The Gateway Area Master Plan, we actually completed about a year ago. US 19, that's probably always going to be a focal point in Pinellas County. And access to the beaches is always a concern. We're now introducing a new third spotlight area, and that's our target employment and industrial land study. This is kind of the issue where, you know, in Pinellas County, we don't like the word built out, but we are in redevelopment mode. But to attract employers, you know, if it's manufacturing, warehousing, you need a lot of land, really. And we just don't have that here in Pinellas County. So we want to really do a good deep dive into how much industrial land do we have, how much do we need, you know, and what's out there. We know that a lot of the industrial properties that we have in Pinellas County are older. The warehouses are too small for modern manufacturing. So we just need to get a better sense on what's out there, what do we need, and then how do we get where we need to be on that. Next slide. I do want to point out this is our interactive tip. This is on our website. And, you know, if you say live in, you know, the mid-county area and you notice that there's some roadway construction going on, you can go to this interactive tip, zoom in, click on the project you want, and it automatically pulls up project descriptions, how much the project costs, what's going on, and more information on that. And this is really just a resource that we provide to the public on all the different projects going on throughout Pinellas County. Next slide. Gateway Expressway, this project, if you've driven anywhere near the St. Pete Clearwater International Airport for the last 2 years, you've probably seen this in some way, shape, or form. This project is going to be adding a tolled expressway facility connecting the Bayside Bridge to US 19 and also, Bayside Bridge to I-275 and also US 19 over to I-275. And this will tie in with express lanes also under construction on I-275. So this is going on now. It should be completed in 2022. And I think that it's going to save about 9 minutes off of your travel time through this area if you take this facility. Next slide. In the I-275 corridor, we also have a lot going on with express lanes under construction. There was a big announcement yesterday from the governor that the funding was advanced to, I believe, 2023 for these express lanes. They're going to be going all the way from downtown St. Petersburg up and across the Howard Franklin Bridge. And then the southern portion of the corridor, if you've ever come off the Skyway and tried to drive into North Pinellas County, you have to change lanes like 5 or 6 times and no one knows where they're going. We're going to fix that. So now we're going to have 2 continuous non-tolled lanes going all the way through the corridor in both directions. So we're hoping to stop some of that weaving and hopefully improve safety on the corridor. And as part of this, they're also going to be hardening the median so that transit vehicles can drive on the median throughout the corridor from downtown north over to the Howard Franklin Bridge. All right, next slide. Oh, you could probably hit next slide again. I think this is a messy one. Yeah, all right. So in US 19 in Northern Pinellas County, as you may be aware, the interchanges have been constructed all the way up through State Road 580 at this point. The plan is to also construct interchanges at Curlew Road, Tampa Road, and Nebraska Road. Just because there's a lot of east, west, and north-south movements. Those are some of our highest crash intersections in Pinellas County just because of the sheer volume of vehicles going through them. So the plan is to finish those in probably about the next 10 years. And then north of there, we're not quite sure what we're going to do in terms of roadway improvements, but we are working very closely with the Regional Transit Authority to also look at, as these interchanges get constructed, what do we do with transit in those areas? Where can the transit stations be placed so that it's safe for people, walking on foot to access those stations? And also, how would a transit vehicle operate? Is there something that we can do with the roadway design that can make the bus move faster? So that, a trip from Tarpon Springs down into Clearwater, maybe it doesn't take you an hour. Maybe you can get there in a shorter amount of time. So we're working very closely with PSTA and our regional transit authority on those. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Might have to go a couple times. There we go. In addition to the roadways and transit, we're also working on the Pinellas Trail Loop. We've been a very strong partner with Pinellas County. As you can see on this map here, there's a loop going throughout the county. Everything is either done or funded except for those yellow pieces in the mid-county area. We do have all funding for those lined up, I think, with the exception of one small piece. So hopefully in the next 5 to 7 years, we will have a continuous loop trail going throughout Pinellas County. It's a fantastic facility, so we're really excited about that as well. And eventually it'll connect over to Titusville with a 250-mile multi-use trail. So that should be coming soon as well. Next slide. All right, and Safe Streets Pinellas. You all probably see the news articles. The roadways around here are very, very unsafe at times for people, especially if you're walking or you're biking. So we had an initiative that we started about a year ago where we analyzed the network to figure out, okay, where are the biggest issue areas in Pinellas County? And we developed what we call our high injury network. And these are the roadways that have, a small percentage of the total roads in Pinellas County, but a very large percentage of all the crashes. So we're starting to align funding and new efforts along these corridors to see what we can do to help improve safety throughout Pinellas County. Next slide. All right, and on the regional level, we work with or through what's called the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance. This organization has been around in some way, shape, or form for, I think, since 1993. If you've been around and plugged in, you may have heard of the Chair's Coordinating Committee. That's what it was, but we've rebranded now. We have a logo that's shown on the screen. It's much nicer looking. And it's really just to kind of bring a little bit more energy and attention to the work that we do as a region. Next slide, because we do a lot. So the Suncoast TPA includes all of the counties that you see up here on the screen, from Hernando down to Sarasota and over to Polk County. You'll see it covers 8 counties, over 1,100 miles of multi-use trails. In 2045, we expect this region to have 7.3 million people. That's an increase of about 51%. And then we also are projecting it to have over 3 million jobs. So it's a big region. It's a lot of planning, but we do this work because, you know, you don't want to start building a road in Hillsborough County and have it dead end at the Pasco County line. That does happen. There are a couple that do that. So we're trying to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So we all work together. We meet on a monthly basis with our partners, and we have constant coordination to make sure that, you know, we're doing it right. Next slide. So this is just some of our work. These are some examples of some projects that have been built in part because of the collective advocacy of us as a region. You'll see that last one, the Sunrunner Bus Rapid Transit. I think that was probably one of the first transit projects that we got letters of support for, you know, from Hillsborough County for a Pinellas County transit project. So we've all come together and we've done some really good work as a region. We put on what we call the Gulf Coast Safe Street Summit. That is an annual event where we have presentations from people in the community. Gloria is actually going to be one of our panelists this go around. That event is being held in November. It is free to attend. If you're interested, I can send you all the registration information. And it's really just 2 days of panelists and presentations on people that have had success or even challenges with improving safety on the roads throughout the region. So I encourage you all to register and attend for at least part of it if you can. Next slide. Oh, there it is. Okay, Gulf Coast Safe Street Summit, going hybrid. The registration is already open. Next slide. And with that, I mean, that was just a lot of information. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. But otherwise, thank you all just so much for having me today.
Thanks, Chelsea. That was a lot.
Yeah.
Your agency really does do a lot of really important work. And I don't think that we give enough credit to Forward Pinellas for how much they shape the way that we grow in Pinellas County. And certainly having that combination of land use and the transportation under one roof really allows us to think comprehensively. And I just want to thank you and your board and your executive director for being such good partners with us at PSTA. I don't think that there has ever been such a good relationship between the transit agency and the MPO here in Pinellas County since Brad and Whit have been at the helm of each respective organization. So we really appreciate it. I just want to really impress upon the committee that in order for us to do our jobs and get all of the federal money that we get, we have to have a strong partnership with the MPO, and it makes it easier when they're helpful. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Chelsea.
You're welcome.
So I think Duncan is having some issues. So Bob and I will close out the meeting with questions and make sure that we get you guys out of here. Appreciate any questions for Chelsea?
For general comments.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a question. Actually, I have quite a few. I'm not going to ask all of them because I know it's close to the end of the meeting. But I'm sorry, I just noticed. I know you don't have any control over this, but is there a reason why there are no BIPOC people on the board? Because every person on the board of the Fort Pinellas is white.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, we're not the most diverse county in Florida, but we're still diverse. And I don't see any reason why we have this is one of the four major boards in the county, countywide, to be all white. Unsettling.
And I will tell you that is actually a relatively new phenomenon for us. Commissioner Ken Welch was on our board until he retired to run as mayor of St. Petersburg. And yes, unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of control over that. Our members are appointed by their respective jurisdictions. We are currently undergoing an equity assessment where we're actually doing an internal look at our own agency. We're looking at our board member makeup, staff makeup, and committee member makeup, at least just to shine a light on, how we are doing in terms of equal representation. Even though, we really don't have a ton of control, but at least we can, like I said, shine a light on it and make ourselves and everyone else aware.
Yeah, I understand. I know, the board, yes, I know how the board is determined, but it's still a little shocking. And is the state mandating the countywide plan part of Pinellas being a charter county?
It's separate from the charter county.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I have a comment. We've spent like $500 million making US 19 into an expressway. There's a comment that I read about years ago that in the 70s and the 60s they had the option to actually do this fresh, design the entire expressway of 19, and it got rejected because people didn't want to have an expressway in the county. And now we spend 5 times, 6 times as much money as we should have because we're doing it piecemeal right now in the most urban, dense county in the state. It makes no sense, but it makes perfect sense, I guess. I don't know. It's just a comment that I just wanted to say. And can we really focus on Central Plaza area with the pedestrian safety? I really hate crossing 19 or 34th Street in that area.
Mhm.
It is terrifying. Absolutely. Just saying.
Okay, noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Jay. That was awesome. I think we have Maxwell and then Bob Bowles.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I've mentioned before, I'm on the south end of 4th Street. There's been a thing going on at Gateway Mall with their time point where the buses will pull up like in front of the post office and there's no buses at the actual bus stops, and they'll wait there at the post office and another bus will pull up at the bus stops, and you got to try to run from the post office to the bus stop to catch your transfer, and a lot of the time you can't because it's not going to stick around that long. I don't understand why, if there's open spaces at the actual bus stops, why are any buses waiting in front of the post office? That doesn't make any sense. If they're connecting routes, shouldn't they pull up so that people can, transfer from one bus to another, not have to run a block?
Maxwell, this is Brad. As a user of that Gateway area, I've had that exact same question 100 times, and what I've been told is that the mall requires certain buses to stop way back there, where you're talking about, because they don't think it can fit. I agree with you. I think more buses than the mall thinks can fit can actually fit, and so sometimes buses do pull up there, and sometimes they don't. I've written down your comment. It's a good comment to see if we can do something about it.
Yeah, because there's 4 bus shelters, and I've seen 4 buses in front of the post office and no buses at any of the shelters, and that was just the craziest thing I've ever seen. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, what they're supposed to do is not sit at the shelters for some crazy reason. They're supposed to sit way back there by the post office, and then only go up to the shelters for 10 seconds or something, and then go on their way. Which doesn't. I completely agree with you. For transferring, it makes it very challenging. And yes, you get your steps in, or you have to run a lot.
And sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes it'll stop at the post office, and the bus you're trying to connect to, they're ready to go. I mean, they are ready to go. The moment that the bus comes to a complete stop at the post office, the one that's actually at the stop is ready to leave. And I've been stuck for half hour or an hour because nonsense. Because the bus I'm on doesn't want to go to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Can I realize ditto that, because is that Gateway? I catch the bus to Gateway to get the USF Tampa, and it's always a rush to try to get to that 100 right before it leaves because the buses come at the same time supposedly. So it's
Good question. Good comment.
And I realize that's not something that, if Gateway is being a problem about it, it may not be an easy solution, but there's got to be something that the county can do to put pressure to, they don't own that street,
Right. If we can get them all to somehow make a solution to that, then I recommend that the committee give them a TRAC Star Award. But hold that. Do not give them any kind of award until they do it. I agree.
That's great. Thank you, Maxwell. Bob Bowles, you had your hand up?
Yes, question for.
Oh, you're on mute. You just put yourself on mute. And you did it again.
Let's try it again. I
Okay.
went to lower my hand and I unmuted myself. For Forward Pinellas, I know we had TD Tampa funding dropped out because of the legislature. What's the forward looking on that funding or helping them to get funding so that type of service can be provided in the future?
Say that again. I missed some of that.
We had TD the TD Tampa program where you could go
Yes.
interconnect, right? That lost funding back in July 1st. And I was wondering from Forward Pinellas' perspective, what's or is there a plan in place to see if funding can be available for the next fiscal year or financial year so that we can get that service back up again?
I guess I don't, Chelsea had to go, and I don't know the answer to that, but.
Are you talking about the ballot initiative, the referendum? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
You're
TD Tampa Bay.
Oh, that is. Oh, yes, I know. That is. You're talking about the service that goes between counties that T-BARTA operated with a grant. That yes, all that was cut on July 1. You're right. Okay, my brain. And it's number one on our proposed legislative agenda that we're going to go to Tallahassee and try to fight to get that restored. And that's where that stands. I've heard pretty positive things that a number of very high prominent Tallahassee legislators are supportive of restoring it and finding a way to restore it, which shouldn't be too hard because apparently, I don't know how this works, but the money is just still there. It's sitting in Tallahassee. That they just didn't. The money is there. They don't have to come up with new money. They just have to allow it to go out. So hopefully we'll get it freed up for next year, and then we can get that service started again.
All right, because one of the things that I researched out, I thought was interesting, is after the funding drop, I wanted to see who was on the Transportation Committee in the Senate, who was in the Transportation Committee in the House. And I find that in the Senate, there's no West Coast representation on the Transportation Committee. Everything is Tallahassee and the lower Southeast, and there's nothing on nobody on the Transportation Committee to push any initiative for us for funding on that type of program, or even PSTA funding and so forth. And in the House, I think the closest member is well, they listed for Pinellas, but I think they actually turned out to be Polk. So I mean, I thought that was curious. Our legislation representation is not there on the West Coast on either side.
Excuse me, just before, I'm really sorry. I need to jump off. I just want to make sure that it is possible to do because I cannot stay more.
Yeah,
I
that's
have an
fine.
article. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for cutting. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, that was just my I was wondering what was going on with that. Thanks for answering.
Bob, just the key committee that at least I pay attention to in the Senate is called, is the Appropriations Committee for Transportation, and that does have Ed Hooper as the vice chair of it, he's from Clearwater.
Right, I realize the bottom dollar comes down to appropriations. I mean, obviously, but I was just curious to find out that there was little, if no, representation on the transportation committees on either side of the aisle. All right.
And we have Mark has put a question in the chat. Will there be service updates for October? Yes, we are working with the union right now. We've had some changes in the staffing levels that and the operations, and so we're trying to make sure that we can maintain the reliability of our system. And so I think we're looking at some routes that will stay as exactly as they are today, especially those that you would consider our core system. So the 4, the 60, the 19, the 34, the 52, the 59, the 18, the Suncoast Beach Trolley will all stay as they are, full span of service. And there may be some others that we have to roll back to a Saturday level of service for a little while the health of our operators improves. So we're working on what that looks like, and we will let people know as soon as we've worked that through with our operators in the union. But we're trying to maintain service as much as we possibly can in all aspects of where we are, but it is tough these days. We have, as many of you know, we have a lot of openings for operators. So if you have anybody who's interested in being an operator, it's a great career. We just increased the starting pay to $15, and the union steps go up pretty fast. I think it's only 6 months, so you have to be here before you get a raise. And then with that, between that and people being out from time to time sick, then we're having some shortages that way. So we'll continue to do our best, but we will definitely have some changes in October. Thanks for that question, Mark. Anything else for the good of the order?
No, I've been asking a lot of questions today, but I noticed when I went on my Flamingo card account, I can see my history of like my taps. What is the privacy with that? Because like I'm pretty sure y'all not giving it to like any random people, but like, what is the guidelines on like if there's an investigation to someone, what's the guidelines behind that information going to like whomever's investigating them, or like in general, what's the privacy with people's taps?
So we don't get that information. I mean, about like individual taps. We'll know where those taps happened, but not who made the taps. And then, so we're not getting any of that personalized information at all. And that's part of the privacy policy. I'm sure we can find it and send it out to you if you'd like.
Oh no, I'm good. I know there's a lot of legalese in that. I think about that. I was just wondering in general.
Well, thanks so much. We really appreciate your participation, and this is really important for us to hear from you and tell you what's going on in the organization. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Mary Ann is out for a while, so contact Bob at B Lasher or engage at PSTA. We'll get to our whole public engagement team. So if Bob's out, somebody else, like the star quality Juan Luvian might be the person who answers your email.
Oh, and just a reminder, these are the evening meetings this month. So finance and planning is at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And then the following week, and that's followed by a public hearing for the budget. And then the following week, the board meeting will be at 6 PM. And that should, we'll also have a public hearing there, the second public hearing.
2 weeks, 2 weeks from now.
Oh, 2 weeks, sorry, you're right, 2 weeks, thank you.
Okay, thanks all very much. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, everybody, stay safe.
Stay safe.
Have a
Have a
good
good
night.
evening.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thanks.